What country are you guys?
Mexico.
Zimbabwe.
We are Mozambique.
Australia.
USA.
We're Saudi Arabia.
Malaysia.
We're Brazil.
When they first get their country, they get a printout, and it'll show them what resources they have and how many. But some of them are blank. They don't have all the resources that they need. And to fill in the blanks, they'll have to negotiate with other countries to trade for the missing resources.
Like, let's say we'll have a, 300 coal deposit. We'll need to make that into actual coal. And we'll need iron to make steel, so we'll trade with someone some of our coal to get some iron, and then we'll make steel, and then we can use that for some of our facilities.
We need lumber. Do you have any?
So what are you looking for?
Ecologists.
We're trading with Peru. They have a lot of teachers. We need some teachers.
We need ecologists, engineers, anything. Hey, Tony, if you do that, we'll give you steel.
Okay, so we're getting 100,000 small machines from you guys, right?
Usually you have to plan like a couple steps ahead.
You look in the index for what you need. For example, gasoline. You look in the index right here, and then it'll tell you box 153. So you go to box 153, and it'll tell you how to make it. So you got to keep going backwards until you can make everything from the raw materials you have.
Well, we just made production equipment because our next goal is to make wire for our power system.
And then once we have our power system, we're going to try and make a communication system so we can expand on our output. We're trying to make a cultural facility.
We're trying to build a transportation system.
We're building agricultural equipment so that we can get some lumber to build a university.
We already have the gas and the engineer and the construction equipment. So we just need to trade the USA for a management level 4.
What the kids will do is they'll find a country that has what they need and doesn't have what they've got, and then they'll come up to the country teams over here and find out which students are in that country and what class period they're in, and then they'll negotiate, they'll call them, they'll meet them in English, they'll come in here at lunch for or a tutorial for the international trade meetings, or they'll post it on the board, or they'll post it on the web, and that's how they make their contacts to start trading the things they need to be traded.
We need to give them stuff because we made a trade earlier and we didn't have enough of what they wanted, so we're trying to get that to them right now.
What do you need?
Lumber. That whole lumber transaction for the university.
You're still looking for lumber.
Yes.
And who are you going to?
Paraguay.
Are you going to share with them?
Yes, we will.
And what are you getting in return?
Probably their gratitude.
So why do you think all the countries are being so nice to each other?
Well, if we were all mean to each other, then we're all going to go in the dumps.
What are you guys figuring out right now?
How to feed the people?
So you have starving people in your country?
Not exactly. We just have people waiting to be fed.
Last year, a bunch of people died because we didn't have enough food to feed our people. And it sucked.
We had to start over though, so we're behind everyone because we killed all of our people.
How did you do that?
We forgot to feed them. And so we didn't have enough hand tools to make them fish or rice, so they died.
If they do it right, everybody can get a good score. Everybody can get way up there if they watch out for the poor countries, help them along. Sometimes you'll have advisors come and help countries, teach them what to do, what the best pathway of development is. The one good thing that's happened this time is there haven't been any wars. In previous simulations, there are always some countries that are attacking each other, but I think this time, because they generated so much pollution so quickly, more than any other time in the last 25 years that have done this, that's become so prime to them that they've disregarded the whole idea of war. They have these production boxes, and depending on what box they use, the box used makes pollution. And depends how many times they do it. So when they're making certain productions, the production itself generates pollution unless they have a pollution control device which will keep the pollution from happening. And what happened early on is countries just made things in mass without trying to keep the pollution down. They wanted to shoot up fast, become the superpower fast, and all of a sudden they overpolluted the world.
So how is Brazil in their pollution right now?
Well, we are second largest polluter, but we're hoping not to pollute anymore. And it's a small price to pay just to get first place.
You can definitely see why smaller developing countries don't mind polluting when they're building up their resources and stuff.
We have really low GMP, but we kind of created a lot of pollution. All the bigger countries are teaming up and making as much pollution control as possible so that they can give it to the other countries for free to prevent the future pollution.
we have no Earth left. So what we're doing now is all the countries are joining together to help the little countries get out. So I guess you could call it the United Nations, except it's in our classroom.
All right, so I guess in this meeting we're going to talk about the group interest goals because that's pretty much the only extra credit thing that we haven't talked about so far. So I think people are having trouble making the heavy weapons, right? See. Yeah. So does anybody here have like completed aluminum that they've made? Anybody who's willing to give it to other people?
I need to step back though. I'm running out of steel, so I'm willing to trade it for steel or small machines.
I have aluminum, or I can have a lot of
Small
aluminum.
machines and like the down.
The smaller countries are having trouble building things that require lumber, right? That's what you guys said.
Also, the smaller like people ones.
Everybody's getting 10,000 PCDs already. Ben just handed in the forms at third period.
That's for every country.
Every country's getting 10,000 PCDs.
All right.
Okay, are we agreed that no one's going to attack anyone?
Yeah. Yoshi, how many heavy weapons do you have? Over what? Over 60? So could you donate some heavy weapons to the people who don't have them?
How are you trusting that they're not going to use them against you?
I have a very big military right now, so even if they attack me, it will probably fail.
This is the end of year 3, so by the end of the period, give me your printouts so I can record the data. Each country has some areas: agriculture, business, consumer protection, education, health, and military. So each of those areas has some goals they'd like to complete. And so there are 32 separate goals within those 6 groups. And so you want to have an economy that's diverse and covers all of those. And so I give them bonus points if they get over 20 goals completed. And if they get all 32, they've mastered everything, and I give them an extra 8 and give them 40 out of 20. And your interest group goals, 10, 11, 13, and 12. 25 goals completed. Great job. They get to a level where they don't see it as a game. They're really trying to make their country. I want to make sure that they're also seeing the bigger picture. And that's what debriefings take, when the teacher, after you're finished and you start to either have them write little essays or you talk about it.
What Simpolicon is excellent at doing is taking large, real-life, complex ideas and putting them in a way that's simple enough to understand, but not too simplistic that it's dumbed down.
I've learned how important, how many things you have to take into consideration and how many, what each country has to take into consideration when they're making and producing this stuff for their people in the country.
It's a lot more complicated, I guess, than I thought. You need a lot more stuff to be successful.
It's easy to kind of point fingers and blame and say, oh, why is this country doing this, or why is this country affected in this certain way? And it's a lot harder when you think about all the logistics that goes into making a country.
I had to care for my people. I had to provide education. I had to ensure world peace, which I did through the UN. Being able to do this for ourselves really showed a lot about how the world works.
Everything affects everything else. We're all codependent.
It's teaching us about how the world works because it's teaching us how to trade with other countries in order to have the entire world advance as a whole.
I can never tell ahead of time which kids are going to get involved and which aren't. Because sometimes very academic kids that are used to having a textbook, an assignment, they get very uncomfortable in a simulation that's open-ended. It's, they're lost. And other times you'll get a kid who might be a C or a D student who just can't do bookwork, just jumps in. It's like taking an engine apart. They're in there wheeling and dealing and running the whole thing.
You'll get students who are up at 2 a.m. in the morning emailing each other, trying to say, okay, should we do this, should we do this? And you get some students who are really tech savvy and they know how to do it. And you'll get other students who are really good with other people, so they'll go and they'll talk to the other countries and figure out what they want to do. Then they'll write that down and give it to the tech guy, and then it'll all get done. So you really need a lot of people who have a variety of skills.
We could read it out of the textbook, and each chapter might talk about one country with population problem, another country with pollution problem, but this is generic. And they actually do it, and they have to try to juggle all these components at one time. Population, economic growth, pollution, resource conservation, and how do you juggle it to get the best individual society and the best overall world, and they're having to deal with that.